Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Daniel,
And Aaron.
awesome, man. Thank you for listening. Thanks for coming on. It's NPMMM. NPMM, yeah.
Here we go. Two
Yeah,
M's.
yeah. 2 M's, not 3. National Pest Management Month, dedicated to us, right? I mean, the guys out in the field, actually even in the office. I mean, everything that everybody's doing out there is great, you know, especially for the industry and looking back at ourselves and seeing what we're doing and how we're doing it. Uh, it's always fun to have a pest guest on, and today we do have another one.
Yeah, pest guests are always some of my favorite episodes, just connecting with other people in the industry. So today we have on Wes Brown, about 3 years in the industry. He is a senior field expert out of Tennessee, dealing with pest, rodent, termite inspections, kind of branching into the specialty work. He wears a lot of different hats like we do, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers and listeners do as well. Wes, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Hey, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. So it means a lot.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Okay, so something we always ask guests to start off the bat, how did you get in the industry about 3 years ago? How did that look like?
So I have a sales background, and I was applying for various different sales jobs, and I applied for a couple just randomly. I liked the number in the pay line and just hit apply instantly on Indeed, and one of them was a pest control company, and they called me, asked me if I wanted to come in for an interview, and I said sure, and it was the best and longest interview I had ever had. And, I have a very diverse work history prior to the pest control industry. And they're like, Wes, I think you'd be a better fit as a technician. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And I didn't say that directly. I sold myself on why I would be better in a sales role. And they called me back and they said, hey, this industry is very hard to come in and sell quickly and effectively. So we'd like to start you off in a role as a technician. And I said, sure, why not? And a few months in, I was like, I don't think I want to go to sales. I think I want to, stay out here in the field. And I've kind of been back and forth ever since. I've done technician work only, sales work only, both simultaneously. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you kind of sales background. What did you do in the sales side of things?
Prior to pest control.
Yeah.
So I did some wireless sales for a while, and that was right out of school, and I was looking to branch off and work for this adhesive company, and that fell through because I ended up moving to Tennessee, and they already had a rep in this area, so that's when I started looking, and ironically enough, I got into the pest industry right after I got married. It was like I got married, and then the next day I quit my job. And
Wow.
then a week or so, yeah. Some people take a honeymoon, other people quit their job the next day. And and then a week or two later, I landed my first job in the industry.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. And from there, you went through your training, you went into the field, and they just started throwing you at anything and everything, or how did that look?
Oh, it was gradual. I got hired on as a termite inspector. So it's for, a company that has, bonds. They have a protection plan, damage guarantee. So I would go out and do their yearly termite inspection for them. And, you know, they trained me on how to identify, termite activity and look for conducive conditions, things like that. And I fell in love with it. It was one of those aha moments that people talk about, that don't ever actually really happen for some people. And part of the job was to, find these additional things and, try to make an upsell, whether it was, a microbial growth treatment or an encapsulation or, exclusion, whatever the case may be. And uh, I didn't really focus on the sales aspect of it. For me, it was, I have that conversation with the customer. report that they don't have any termite damage or activity, but I did find this. It was like I found my calling.
Hmm.
And from there, I kept doing that. I ended up being cross-trained in pest control because, technicians get worn out, they call out, so they needed somebody to be able to cover routes whenever guys would need time off. And I ended up leaving that company uh, because they got bought out, and I didn't like the changes that were being made, and worked for a little mom and pop company for a while, and they ended up, having to downsize significantly. They realized they couldn't pay as much as they thought they could, and then I got the job at the company I'm at now, and I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. And so now that's your title. They say, what do they call them? Experts,
Field
right?
experts, yes, sir.
Experts. Okay. Um, yeah, I got to get used to that terminology. It's different.
Yeah. Well,
Everyone.
it's displaying competence even with something as simple as a job title.
Mhm. No,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, that's good. So now you're out in the field still doing everything right? Are you
Yes,
doing
sir.
termite inspections as well?
From time to time, we have so much different stuff that we do. We delegate most of that to 2 or 3 particular guys, but I am part of the termite department, so I do have to do them from time to time.
Gotcha. Okay. What would you tell someone who is just getting into the industry? Any advice you'd give them?
Yeah, question everything. There's a lot of guys that'll tell you something and they've been doing it 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and it could be 100% accurate or it could be 100% inaccurate. So it's question everything, do your own research, check the label, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, in sales, you've got ABC, always be closing. I like to say ABA, always be asking, but
Mm.
also always be asking questions. If you have an insatiable, unquenchable, you know, desire to learn, then it's definitely the industry for you.
Mhm. No, that's true. I mean, everything is changing so often and so quickly. You don't really ever get a grasp, of, hey, this is, and yeah, especially when you're dealing with older technicians, you're in an older area, wherever it may be. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Always ask questions and doubt everything because it could be wrong. So I agree with that.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Um, that's good advice. That's really good advice for new tech coming into it. What did you think of the industry when you started getting into it? Because you are not from the industry. You came, from outside fairly recently. What did you think coming into it?
My first impression of the industry was my very first ride along, very first house we went to was a termite inspection. And the service manager that I was with, he popped the crawl space door open and you could barely see into the crawl space because of the sheer amount of spider webs that was right there in the doorway. And I was like, oh man, we got to get in there. And he was just standing there, in his uniform, and I'm in a full Tyvek suit. I was like, I feel bad. Like I'm wearing all this protective stuff, and he's just gonna crawl in like it's nothing. That was my first impression, and it definitely took a little getting used to at first. I'm not a claustrophobic person, but getting into crawl spaces when you've never really done that before, especially the low clearance ones, was kind of a learning curve.
Mhm.
But now there's not much that really makes me nervous or uncomfortable. Addicts is probably the only thing, and that's just because of the possibility of falling through.
Oh yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Man, well, that's good. That's good experience that you're getting out there in the field and kind of growing and learning and taking all that on and seeing it from a different perspective. Now, coming from an outside industry into, the pest control one, I saw a lot of things that I would actually change in the pest control industry that I didn't necessarily agree with that what they were doing. Did you ever see that as well?
Yeah, and the longer I'm in it, the more I see, just especially with working for, different companies and then watching, other companies out in the field, because you might have another company servicing
Mhm.
someone across the street from you. And it's, I would definitely change, the way uh, technicians are trained. Uh,
Yep.
I know that, there was times when I was like, I don't know how to do this. And, it takes time out of your day to have to call people and figure things out. And even then, you're still not 100% sure. But at the same time, it's like doing a cookie cutter service at every single house is not, that's not effective, integrated pest management.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely correct on that. I agree with that 100%. The training, that I got into when I first came in was non-existent. It was more of you got to go run a route. Like that's it. Just run a route. Yep, go run a route. Figure it out. Read the label.
Yeah.
It's like cool. Okay.
Yeah, we actually have gone back to the drawing board a little bit with that, because a lot of times you find training programs or you're going to ride along with the most experienced tech, but that most experienced tech could hate their life or be like very closed-minded and just leave a really weird taste. So we've, at least Daniel and I on the business side of it, actually having a training program with consistent follow-ups and consistent people that you can, reach out to for information has been working for us. Obviously, we're going to keep getting better at it. We roll out new systems and things, but I agree with you. Training as a whole, from what I've asked other technicians and from what, people in the podcast have come and said, it's very similar to, your experience, Wes, where it's like, I kind of got thrown out there. I had to figure it out. And the ones who are resourceful and are open-minded seem to do well and thrive and can offer kind of different perspectives on how that training should look like and then how it's implemented in the field. So it's cool. It's refreshing hearing that.
Absolutely. And that's something that we're doing at the moment as well. We're completely revamping our training process.
Okay.
My mentor actually just got promoted recently to training and development manager. So he's overseeing all of that. And, it's definitely, something positive that I look at and I'm like, man, I'm excited for the new people that we're bringing in, because they're going to be properly trained from day one. And, they're never going to really feel like they were thrown into the deep end head first and they can't swim.
Yeah. No, and that's a huge thing. We actually had a guest on, Brian Goldman, and that's a huge thing that he does, right? He's vetting all of his guys when they're coming on. They're making sure that they're pulling on the best of the best. And, through that process, they get, awesome reviews. I even went and looked them up.
Mhm.
And I was checking the company out and seeing everything. And man, it's awesome what he's done and the training that they've done there. Cause it does show when you do focus on that and you help your guys, be prepared for those situations. y- the outcome is just 10 times better than what it could or should be. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and our owner, he does a good job with that too. He's not as hands-on as he used to be,
Mhm.
but the lens that he uses is are you familiar with the Jim Collins book Good to Great?
Yes. Mhm.
So, he likes to make sure that he's getting the right people on the bus and from there getting them in the right seat.
Yeah.
So, that's what we're doing now. That's why we now have a training and development manager, and they're creating new roles constantly, making new seats for the people that are on the bus.
No, that's awesome. And that's awesome that you're a part of that. Cause that is, it's hard to find and there's not a lot of good, really solid pest control companies that are doing things like that. It's really old school and old thinking. And when you find a forward thinking company that's willing to do that, it's always refreshing to hear that, hey, it's that the industry is now changing and we're growing and we're going to be so much better because of it. But there's so many that just don't even care. They don't want to do that. It's too hard. It's too much work.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's great to hear that you're a part of that and you're seeing that.
Absolutely.
I mean, we see it all the time. Like, Daniel and I are kind of coming back to the drawing board quite frequently with like trial and error and things that work well. It's like, maybe we need to create this position. We're like, hey, try out this, try creating this position and see how it rolls out. Where, like you were saying on some of the older companies, it's like the only room for advancement is, termination or death from your superior, supervisor,
Yeah.
and it's not really, there's no room for growth there. At least a big thing for me, if you've been listening, for a little bit, it's the needle always has to be moving. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whether we're in the trenches for like 3 months or we're in the office for 3 months or whatever we're doing, as long as we're moving the needle, I think just keeping that open mind, like you guys have been doing, because it's not easy. I mean, it's like
Mhm.
you don't know if a position you're going to create is going to work, but that's kind of the fun of it. And working on the business and not in the business, and kind of having that back and forth it's a lot of fun, at least for us.
Yeah, and so Wes, we want to hear, you have 3 years so far, and hopefully many, many more to come in the industry. What is one of the craziest stories or experiences you've had out in the field?
So, I've listened to the previous pest guests for this month, and I've been thinking about it, and I kind of had, a good and bad in mind, and they're both quick. The
Okay.
best was I was at a company that didn't allow technicians to receive tips, but some people insist, and if they insisted, I would not decline because it builds rapport.
Uh-huh.
If you continuously decline, it's like when they offer you water. So I would keep the cash tips in my truck, and anytime I saw, a homeless person that didn't look like they were just going to take it and, go buy something that was going to be detrimental to them, I would give it to them. And so one day I gave somebody, some cash from my tips, and somebody around me in traffic had seen it. And I was in the company truck, so they saw the number and they called and they mentioned it and then signed up for service. They were like, I see what you're doing and I want to be a part of it. So
Mm.
that was, it's not crazy, but it's not common either. And
Yeah.
then the bad one was I was doing a crawl space inspection, and I saw some obvious wood rot due to moisture. And so I crawled over to check it out. I'd taken my jacket off at the door because it was cold outside, but it was pretty humid in that crawl space. And
Uh,
it was a medium clearance crawl space. I got up on my knees and I had my head up between the joists and I was checking it out, and I heard the toilet above me flush. Next thing I knew,
oh,
I was
no.
being sprayed all in the face by
Uh,
plumbing. Yeah. And
oh,
and that's not the end of it either.
okay, okay.
I gathered myself, crawled out of the crawl space, immediately, took my shirt off. Thankfully, it didn't get on my pants.
Yeah.
And so I just put my jacket on, over myself, and got in the truck, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Um, I drove, to a gas station or a pharmacy or something, went back to the
Uh-huh.
bathroom, tried to clean myself. And when I took my jacket off, I'd been bit by a brown recluse. A
Oh,
brown
no.
recluse had gotten in my jacket while I was doing this inspection. So I was like, well, do I shower first and then go get seen, or do I go get seen first? I don't know what to do here.
So you
And
saw the
so
spider?
I did, yeah. When I
Oh,
took the jacket off to, clean myself up, he went across the floor of the bathroom.
oh, did you feel the bite?
Mm-mm, I didn't feel it.
Oh, okay.
But I could see, a little spot, and I was like, yeah, that wasn't there when I took my shirt off to change, and I was wearing the jacket over myself,
Oh my
Mhm.
god.
bare skinned, and yeah, that was my first bite.
Oh, man. What did they do to, help with the bite?
So the doctor was kind of, a little doubtful at first because it was just an itsy bitsy little spot.
Yeah.
And, I'm kind of just pointing at my hat saying, I know what I'm talking about, respectfully.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how do you know? And I said, it crawled out of my jacket.
You're like, "I saw it."
Here's this bump looks like this, but here's, 20 pictures I've taken in the last 30 minutes of how it has changed rapidly. I had an allergic reaction to it.
Yeah.
And they're like, Okay, okay, I'll take your word for it." And they ended up giving me an antibiotic to take.
Oh, okay, and everything
Dang.
was fine?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy.
But it was two things in one. Yeah, yeah. Shower and then bite.
Oh man. Okay.
It's pretty
Well,
good.
that is a good one. I
It's up
don't
there.
think I have a bathroom story like that.
Hopefully,
Uh,
you never will.
No. I think we've talked about it before. At least for me. I mean, I've only been in the industry for like 2 years, but it's the bed bug crime scene story
oh yeah,
where
yeah.
it's just there's so many bed bugs in this unit that we were treating for, and we ended up having to use like a HEPA vacuum to get it because it was like a film like that thick. And like as we were just like stepping around this unit, it was just like blood just everywhere. It was just it was a little weird for me, but other than that, nothing too crazy.
I went to a house yesterday that had so many roaches that when I walked out of the house, I had to brush off my entire body from the dead roaches that were stuck all over me.
Oh,
It's a
how
That
big
did,
one.
one,
Smell
that
it.
one was a mess.
how did you get the dead? How did you get cockroaches on you?
There was that many dead ones before I got there. And so I'm
Uh-huh.
crawling around on the floor, trying
Mhm.
to, inspect and also, bait
Yeah.
around, cracks and crevices, and they just stuck to me because there was that much grime on the floor too. The grime
Oh,
gets stuck to my clothes, the roaches get stuck to the grime.
oh man.
Disgusting.
It was nasty.
Well, now we're making everybody not want to be a tech. They're like, oh yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get pissed on and
Yeah.
bit. It's like, no, I think I'm good.
Yeah, we're backsliding into pest awareness week. That was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no. Everyone listening, it's not that bad. Okay. These are the crazy experiences. You don't have them on a day-to-day basis. Uh, they do happen, but nothing too insane. But now when you're going underneath the house, look for any pipes that are possibly leaking.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is a great story. And that is, yeah, honestly, the termites getting underneath houses, crawl spaces. Luckily for me, I haven't had to be in any situation where I've been into that tight of a space. Some of the houses that we go into, crawl spaces you can stand up in. It's pretty much a basement. Um, just because of how the house is built on a hill and things like that. So you're not getting, you're not on your stomach army crawling through a crawl space or anything crazy. But that would be absolutely, yeah. I don't even know. Yeah. Did you even say anything to the customer? Did you knock on their door? Did you tell them you're leaving? Like anything?
Thankfully, they were not home.
They
I
weren't.
I don't know I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I can, picture that conversation in my head. I come to the door, you can see that I'm not, wearing a shirt underneath my jacket. My face and hair are all wet, and y-
Gosh. Oh,
I'd
well,
probably be halfway out in the yard, trying
yeah.
to have this conversation because I smell. Well, wait, no, no. I misspoke. Someone was home because somebody flushed the toilet. They just didn't answer the door.
So you knocked the door?
Yeah, I knocked the door, when I got there and when I left and nobody answered.
They probably smelt you from that far away. They're like, "Yeah, I'm not opening up this door." They're like,
You
"Nope."
know, it could have been one of those situations where, they saw the truck and they're like, "Ah, I know what he's here for."
Yeah,
That
yep,
that that does happen sometimes.
yeah. Man, that's a good one. That is a great one.
Yeah.
Goodness, yeah. No, I think the worst I've ever had it is cockroaches. It was so bad they were falling from the ceiling. They were literally everywhere on the floor. Even when I got done and I was backing out of the house, closing the door after I did my treatment, the lady was freaking out and she had a broom and she was like hitting the ground, the stairs I was standing on because they just were pouring out and there's so many of them.
Mhm.
Um, but that's probably the most insane. I mean, even the bed bug one that we went to, that one was really good, but we didn't have them everywhere. I mean, they were everywhere,
Yeah.
but they were like crawling on you, or it
Yeah.
wasn't anything. I mean, it was manageable. The cockroaches, when you started hitting them, they were freaking out. They were going everywhere. That one was like, hey, I gotta look up and around. Like, where are they? And then they were even crawling up my pants. That was a bad one.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh
Wes.
man. I serviced a restaurant a few weeks ago that was having a roach issue, and I started flushing them out, and they were going all over the place, and they decided to open the restaurant early
No.
as I was flushing them out. So I was like, what do I do? So I grabbed, my bag and just put glue boards everywhere around the appliance that I was flushing them out of. And the owner brought his two young sons in, and they were standing about 5 feet behind me, just stomping on the ones that got past me and got past the glue boards. And I was
Oh,
like, well, integrated
but
pest management, I guess.
There you go.
yeah, they can't build a resistance against the boot.
It's true.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's some restaurants do that. They freak out and they're like, "Why are there cockroaches everywhere?" It's like, well, I mean, what'd you expect? They're not gonna
They
magically go away.
Yeah, they didn't really care. It was a little hole in the wall place, and they just, they wanted their non-family member customers to, not have to see roaches
Yeah,
Mhm.
is why they, signed up for the service. But they were pretty cool about it. They're like, yeah, no big deal. Cockroaches, we've had them before.
deal with them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man.
So you're dealing with commercial and residential then. You do a little bit of both.
I am.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wes, is there any questions you have for us before we come to a close?
Yeah. So, one question that I've always had is, how do you balance, talking about, doing IPM at every house, doing an inspection when it's needed and so on. How do you balance that and, your stop count? I find it, hard with the routes I've been given, over my entire time in the industry. It's like, I don't have time to do an extra step or go out of my way, but my conscience won't let me. I'm detailed and thorough by to a fault sometimes.
You know, you want me to answer first?
Good.
Okay. Yeah, Wes, for me, it's situational. Um, as I'm going out to houses, I'm knocking on these doors, I'm talking to customers. I am at least our IPM program. I'm doing that as I'm talking to them, and I'm taking it as levels, right? I go to your house, you're just a regular residential account. You have ants and spiders or some regular pests. I'm not going to go to the full extent of a full home inspection and go too crazy with it because there's not a need. Nor do those customers really even care that I'm doing it. They don't know what we know. And it's hard for us as professionals who are enthusiastic about what we do, but it's understanding that balance of, hey, this isn't the time to do that. Now, when we go into situations with specialty pests, right? So our specialty pests are rats, rats, mice. So any of the vertebrae is what we'll kind of classify them as. You have your cockroaches, your bed bugs. Those are going to be time spent, but that is where we allow our technicians. You go to a property, they say, hey, I have German cockroaches. You got, I mean, come on, you can go find a German cockroach within 5-10 minutes maybe. You go and inspect. You don't have time that day, that's fine. Just let us know and we'll put an estimate on you, and we'll get you to have enough time to actually do that and inspect it properly. But we're allowing that to be, you get to decide that. So you get that time. You go in, you see something, hey, there's possible bed bugs. I need to come out and do a full inspection. Great. We're going to set that time and we're going to plan it for the future and get you out there. As you're running a route, you have 15, 18 stops on your day. Yeah, you probably don't have that time. And so you have to just take it situation by situation. And what am I dealing with? And should I push it off into the future and then come back and do a proper inspection instead of doing it today? Because we've had guys in the past that, they're making that one customer happy, but they're pissing off 10 others. So
Yep.
really, are you doing a good job? I would arguably say, no, you're not. because you're ruining, 10 other customers to make one happy. And there's always time and a place for that. And we just have to control ourselves in that, especially the ones, just like yourself, just like me, just like Aaron, who have a bigger passion for it. We have to understand, hey, right now is not that time. There is a time and place for it, but right now isn't that. And just letting the customer know, hey, I'd love to do this. We just got to do it tomorrow, or we got to do it in a couple days when I have more time.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's pretty similar. It's situational, at least when we're training our guys with, I don't know what software that you're using, but when you're going through certain accounts, you can see some of the pest services. You can see, some customers have certain notes and certain problematic pests on certain times of the year that they deal with. So I think being prepared and having the guys equipped to come up to the door with a little bit more ammunition than just, hi, I'm here to do your pest control service. It's like, well, yeah, no shit. It's like the truck's here and you know what I mean? You're here in your tech suit, but
Yeah.
instead going to that same door and saying, hey, I saw last service you were dealing with ants and you had some, Turkish sand cockroaches in your garage. The last text said that, there was some recycling pulled up there and then, you guys were going to clean it up. How's that looking now? And they're like, oh, it's great. Or, oh, we did that and it still sucks. Okay. Then I could spend a little more time kind of reassessing the situation. But I'm guilty of this. I spend way too much time on things that should be quicker because I do enjoy like the conversation, the inspection, investigation side of it, but I have to draw that line in the sand for myself and say, don't overcomplicate it, but still provide the proper service. And I think, like you said, it is finding that balance because you do want to resolve everything and you want to be phenomenal and no callbacks, but I think just being equipped, being prepared, make sure your guys are prepared and know what to say and what not to say, and just communication between the office, the customer, the notes, service manager, service technician, and yeah.
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Wes?
Yeah, yeah, and I think, after kind of verbalizing it and hearing what y'all had to say, it's more, I think it's scheduling related on, on
Okay.
my end as far as, my routes that are built for me, and also having to clean up behind, former technicians, whether they just, it's been a year since any dewebbing has been done, or whatever the case may be. I know on the termite, it's a lot of cleanup. We do a lot of baiting. We do Trelona and Centricon, and I'll go to houses and I can't definitively say it was a technician. It might have been the customer that had some landscaping done and pulled the stations up, but it's like, whoa, you're missing half your stations. I'm here, for 30 minutes to check all of them for activity and replace bait if I need to. And now I got to replace half the stations themselves. And we reschedule those, but if we're if it's kind of escalated by the customer, then it's like, okay, ooh, I got to spend this extra time and so on. Or I've had a few instances where they've been missing several stations and I've found live termites in one of the stations. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go ahead and install the rest of the stations and inspect the home just for good measure, because I don't know how long they've been without 100% coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's where I go back. It's and this is something they don't teach during, in training, right? You're not taught, hey, when you run into this situation, what should you do? And that's where, you have to understand, once again, I have a full day. I don't have time to take that, because that's where some techs will get in trouble. And then they say, well, management sucks and this and that. And it's like, well, no, you got to understand, there needs to be a conversation had between, tech and management. I don't have time to do this for the customer, so I need to reschedule it. And hopefully they're okay with that. If they're not okay with that, then it is management at that point. But there just needs to be a training on that in certain situations. What do I do? How do I handle that? What should I do? What are you looking for? Right. And that's what we try to make clear here is there's a time and place for everything. When you have a full day, that's not the time and place,
Right.
so you gotta move on. But we will come back and we will take care of that customer. We just can't do it right now specifically because we know that others are going to get upset if we try to do something like that.
Yeah. And, over the time, I figured out ways to supplement, put a Band-Aid on it at least.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know, a pest service, they think they might have roaches. You know, I come in and I find a few and I'm like, okay, you know, they need a quote, and you know that requires a more in-depth inspection, but they've definitely got roaches and they're freaking out about it. Here, I'll put down a few gentral point sources for them so that way there's at least something out there for them, and you know they've got some sort of treatment to start working until we can get back, because I it's not up to me to schedule when someone's going to come out or when I'm going to come out again. You know, that's up to everyone in our office. So
Yeah.
in that scenario specifically, I'm doing the best I can without, you know, letting my entire day, you know, get messed up.
Yeah. No, and that's absolutely smart. You know, that's exactly how you should handle those things. Is there anything else you'd like to ask us, Wes?
Um, Nothing comes to mind. You know, I appreciate what you guys are doing here, and you know, if I was to give, you know, one more word of advice to someone else coming into the industry, I
Hmm.
would say, you know, learn how to, you know, keep your head on a swivel and look for things, you know, while you're treating, because it's, you know, make sure you don't miss anything. It, you know, it might change what you're treating for, the way you treat, but also, you know, it might help you catch something that's, you know, could be detrimental to the customer's home. I had one a few weeks ago. I was granulating the yard and I it was my last stop of the day. I was kind of zoned out a little bit. You know, the sun was setting and, you know, I was focused on going home. I was for once 5 minutes from home. Usually I'm over an hour. And I stopped walking because I'd stepped down in a big hole in the ground, and I looked up and I saw a dilapidated outbuilding in the neighbor's yard. And I said, hmm, that looks a little concerning. And then, you know, it was like my brain rewound in my head, and I remember tripping over a stump and a big chunk of it went flying. And so I went back over to the stump I had tripped over,
Hmm.
and I had pulled a little bit more of the wood out. Subterranean termites everywhere.
Oh wow.
So, you know, that, and I found that just doing a regular pest maintenance service, there was nothing I had to do out of the ordinary in that scenario. I de-webbed, I treated with liquid, I granulated, and I was going to go home. But then, you know, it turned into something else, and now they're a termite customer of ours too.
No, that's awesome. That's great. And it is, yeah, keep your eyes open, you know, always look for you know, any of those situations, because that's going to set you apart from the next one over, and really make you better at what you're doing. But Wes, you know, thank you so much for coming on and being a pest guest, especially during this month. We do appreciate that, and we appreciate you listening as well. Um, you know, we'll definitely have a follow up with you, see where you're at, you know, in a little bit in the career wise, and where, you know, pest control has taken you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank y'all.
Yep. You have a good day.
Y'all as well.
All right. So there you have it. Wes Brown
Wes Brown
from
from
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee, good guy. Yeah, it's good to have on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good stories. Horrible actually story. For him.
Yeah,
Dang,
yeah.
I mean, that would I would be very upset, that's for sure. It would not be a fun day for me.
No, no.
But guys, remember, you know, it is Pest Guest. It's National Pest Management Month. We love having you guys on. We love the stories. We love, you know, all the experiences and the backgrounds that you guys have come from and what's brought you into the industry, what you like about the industry. It's always great to hear different, you know, really a little bit of everything. It's kind of
Honestly,
cool,
yeah,
you know, just like the fluke, like, hey, I showed up for an interview for something else and it's this.
yeah,
And, you know, like what he was doing, he was looking for a sales job and he just happened to, you know, click on pest control,
yeah.
you know, and it seems to be almost an accident in every way. Um, but the ones that do get into it seem to love it.
Yeah.
And so it's always great to have you. So thanks again, Wes, for coming on and being, you know, the next pest guest.
Yes, thank you, Wes, and thank you for listening, watching, whatever you're consuming this content on. You know, we just rolled out the video a few weeks ago and we're working out the kinks, but we're having a lot of fun with it. And, you know, we do put this stuff out for free because we enjoy doing it. So Your guys' support with liking and sharing this content has been massive, and the engagement on all our social media platforms have been awesome. That's Instagram, our YouTube channel, Facebook, and then even our website too. I know it's National Pest Management Month, so we've been pushing a ton of pest guests, but don't forget that's just a way to connect with us. If you have any questions or any tips or advice, or you want to just be on the show, or somebody that would be a great fit, somebody out in the field or somebody in the office who you'd enjoy on the show, please send them our information. We record and we drop episodes every Monday and Thursday. So that's why it's important to check out our social media, because we'll have like upcoming episodes, upcoming events, and things that we're rolling out there, especially with the merch and the gear that we've been kind of putting out and placing. So a lot of good stuff. But thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.